All right, so this is where we left off last time, and just a couple things. Right now, I upgraded to Blender 2.9, so if you don't have if you're using an older version than that, make sure to jump onto 2.9. So what we have here is our cylinder and our sphere, and what we've been doing in the last set of videos is to practice using the interface, and what I'd like to do is show you just some quick pro tips on merging and remeshing things. So first, let's select our ears. So let's say that we have these called ears. You don't have to rename it for now because they're literally going to be gone in a second. So here's my ears, and then here's the head. So if I select the ears, then I shift select the head here, and what I can do is I can join those together. Let's make sure that control click these two. There we go. And if I hit Control J, they are joined together, right? Now, they're still separate pieces, but they're just kind of grouped together into one object. Now, what we were doing in the past is we would go to Sculpt mode, and then we would hit Remesh, and we'd have to play with these settings for our voxel size. Remember, our voxel size is how big each one of these polygon faces is. Well, what you can do to sort of help eyeball that is if you hit Shift R instead of Control R and you just move your pen or your mouse, you can control the size. So say I want it all to be this big and I left click. Now remember, here's the ear here. Now if I hit Control R, it'll revoxel all of these faces to that size. So that's kind of a nice nifty trick. So instead of having to come up here or go through this or play with these different tools this way, you can just hit Shift R and then adjust it and then hit Control R to get the size you need. All right, so I'm going to jump back in here. Oops, let's undo that move. I'm going to hit C to bring up my clay buildup, and I'm going to hide those sides for a second. And we are going for just sort of a generic head. Let me carve this back in a little bit. So holding Control to do that, I'm going to turn Dyn Topo back on too. And looks like because I did upgrade, I forgot to remap it. These guys, right? So right now the standard clay and not clay strips is not set to C. So let's go and take a look at how do we redo that if you forgot. So edit preferences, and then there's key mapping, and there's key binding and name. So for example, if I click on key binding and I hit C, it's going to give me all of the different things, the grease pencil, and everything else that's mapped to that C key depending on which view you're in, right? So if I scroll down here, let's look for the let's see, clip editor, graph editor, knife, sculpt. So you can see here, brush select, C, right? This is what it's set to. If I expand this out, you could say, oh, there's this sculpt clay, which I really want is clay strips mapped to C. Okay, and then just make sure autosave is on. If I hit save preferences, that'll save that. And this is a nice way of kind of saying like, oh, you know what, like, so now when I close that and I press C, you can see it switches to clay strips. So you just kind of a refresher on what we covered before. So I'm going to go ahead and sculpt this down. I really want to bring up my, let's do constant detail here. And I'm going to crank that up a little bit. Yeah, that's a lot better. All right, there's some constant detail. Let's actually go down just a little bit more. So something like this. And let's take a look at, ooh, you know what? I forgot to, so on that ear, I forgot to apply the mirror. So I'm going to hit Control Z a couple times. So you could see it's here, but on that cylinder before I merged it, so going back a little bit, if we go to our modifier panel, if I don't hit apply, it's only going to assume that I only needed the one ear. So one more time, select both of these, Control click, Shift J, I'm sorry, Control J. Come on, merge together. Oh, let me hit apply again. There we go. All right, there it is. Okay. Control J. Now it's one object. Shift R. Well, let's go to our sculpt mode. There we go. Now we're on the head. Shift R to set the size, and then Control R, and now you could see across the whole model, we get that constant, that same good stuff. All right, hitting C here. Now we can jump back in. All right, so it's good to see those little mistakes happen. Let's make sure Dyne Topo is on when we're in our sculpt mode. And let's knock this out a little bit. So bringing this down, hitting Control. Let's crank this up. Constant detail. Crank it up. There we go. That's good. That's what I like. All right. So bringing out these cheekbones a little bit more in here. Let's go ahead and use our grab tool and shape the ear. Now what I want you to pay attention to is we want a nice curvature of the ear from the side. So if I hit 3 here, we're looking for this shape from the side. From the front, I'm going to hit 1 here. We are looking to go in. So when I look at it from the side, I want to maintain that nice curve. But from the front, I want to shape it so that the ears are sort of coming out like this. So we have a little bit like this. All right. Now the same thing when I go to my side view, I want to pull up a little bit on that jawline and pull those ears down. So we want a little bit of a hanging in the ear like that. So that's the generic shape. Now when we go to sculpt this, right at the cheekbone, we want to start adding in some of those features. Let's crank this up a little bit more, like this. And I'm going to, around the ear, build up just around the canal like this. Smooth this out a little bit, add some geo in there. I might have to go up to 20. Looking good. And then I want to hide these two for a second. Now for the back of the ear, what I'm looking to do, let's actually bring this down a little bit with my grab tool and bring this up. I want to add some, I want to add the area that's supporting that ear canal. So with my clay buildup, just add a bunch of geo in here, creating like a little notch like that connects to the head. Do you see that? You don't have to get too crazy with this, just because a lot of this resculpting and remeshing and stuff, you end up doing a lot of this stuff over again. But we just want to A, practice, and B, just get those things in there, those little bits. Now for the inside of the ear, what I generally do is this. I carve in more than pull out. So I'm going to hold Control here, and I'm just going to carve into this area. And then I'm going to add just a little bit this way. And then I'm going to carve in just a tiny bit in here. Bring this up a little bit. Then hit Control R to clean all of this up. All right, but the reason the Control R didn't take is we want to make sure this is off. Control R. Let's go a little bit higher. Let's go like that. It's a little bit better. Yeah, like that. Maybe a little less. Let me carve in here a little bit too. So something like this. Let's connect this up. There we go. Yeah, if we do something like that, we're not going to lose too much. All right, let's turn this back on. Oops. Cleaning all that stuff up in here. So I kind of hit tab shift. All right, that's enough attention on the ear for now. All right, so let's quickly sculpt out the mouth. So what I generally do for the mouth is use my grab brush, and the teeth sort of sit across this muzzle like that. And so I'm going to grab my clay brush here, that clay strips brush, just marking where my chin is going to go. And then what I do is I draw like an M coming out like this. Like that, coming down to about the center of where that dip is. And then I carve all of this stuff in like that. So I'm just kind of carving in up to that chin line. I smooth that out. Yeah, that's a lot better. So that's where our upper lip is going to be. And generally, your mouth, the sides of your mouth, are at the widest point in the face, which is that jawline. So I'm going to bring this out. All right, let's bring our reference back for a second. to make sure that we are not drifting too far off. Let's bring this chin down a little bit here. Let's see. So our mouth's not too bad. So carving that in. Let's bring our jaw out a little bit more and flatten it out. I like to pinch the chins a little bit like that. Let's bring all of this out a little bit more like that. It's looking good. Let's go ahead and just quickly, we've blocked in that upper lip. And then let's add a little bit of fat on the sides there. That's going to lead into here. And I'm going to go ahead and flush this out. Now the bottom lip is usually fuller than the top. So just go ahead and add so I heard this great analogy of a bird. So this is the head of the bird sitting on a nest when you're doing a lip like this. So something like this. And there's the divot of our chin. Now mind you, all of this stuff as we start to look at reference gets fixed in a little bit more. So let's go ahead and bring that mouth out a little bit more like this. You can see we get that, because we carved it out, we have that lip like that. Now what I tend to do to finish that up is I'll grab my scrape brush and I start to create the planes of the lip. So like this, down, down like that, across the top of the lip like this, just flattening that out. Same thing here. On the inside of the lip here, this actually needs a little bit more clay, so FC. Just fill that out a little bit more like that. And we're going to grab our scrape brush. Just scrape the top of that lip, flatten out the middle, and then flatten out the bottom like that. So now you have just the basic structure of the lips. The problem with mine is it's a little bit too small. Let's kind of give them a little bit of a smile. Let's bring this down. Let's bring these in. All right, before I remesh it, I'm going to block out the nose really quick. So let's bring the nose out a little bit more. Let's grab that little bump there. And the forehead needs to be pulled out just a little bit too. We'll size it to the reference in a little bit, but all right, let's give the eye socket a little bit more love. All right, so grabbing that clay brush, what I normally do is I just sculpt in the nostrils. And then to know where to fill it in, I'll grab my draw brush. Let's smooth this out just a little bit to add that geo. And let's crank this up a lot because the draw brush needs a lot of geo. And I just circle around and go underneath the nose like this. And then with my grab brush, just sort to play with the shape of the nose a little bit. So pulling this out, pulling this up a little bit, pulling this in. And don't worry, we're going to totally go in with our scrape brush and fix the planes of all this stuff in here. All right, this video is getting a little bit too long. Just fix this nose. And we can push it a little bit more in the next video.